I see Jay Fitz dancing back there. He's not actually on the camera. There he goes. Now he's on the camera. I don't even know what I'm actually playing right now, to be honest with you. Because of the fact, Jay Fitz, because of the fact that we do the show on YouTube now, I'm not allowed to use actual real music, so I have to use whatever free audio tracks I get from royalty free from YouTube or so I don't know what that was.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, though. That's a beast all across the board. And if you listen, this is like a little tip. A lot of people will not realize. If you watch ESPN digitally, you watch some of our shows that I host on other platforms, there's times where you're listening to a song and you're like, God, that feels a lot like the song I know. Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Like licensing, as a former musician, let me tell you, licensing is its own beast across the board. So I feel you on that.
It has to, I used to be known for the music I played. Like when you be on, I'd be like, oh, do you know Zwan? The side project of Billy Corrigan. So we could have, but I can't really do that anymore. But, hey, I could see you, which helps.
As a music guy, by the way, and I know we got other stuff to get to, I'm going to hijack real quick and promote something, though. I've spent the last several days in L.A., because for the NFL draft a couple of years ago, people may have seen it. I did sit downs with different country artists for the draft in Nashville. This year, with the draft being adjacent to the country music Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I've spent the last several days getting to hang out with different Hall of Famers in LA. So they're going to run those throughout ABC and ESPN throughout all 3 days of the draft. But I've been able to talk to Joan Jett, Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, Shaka Khan, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Richie Sambora is coming up in the next day. So, it's been a really incredible time, and you'll get to see those cut up in, little 30-second blasts throughout all of the draft. So, a really cool way to bring some personality of Rock and Roll Hall of Famers into this conversation.
Before I did this, now I've been hosting this show for about, 15 years or so, but I did alt rock radio from Afternoon Drive. I was I was the afternoon guy on the Howard Stern station. So I was 21 at the time. So my life was kind of cool back then. Now I just talk about sports,
But I'll tell you, it's rare that I'm just a melting fan child of somebody. That's where I am in general. Richie Sambora, my first concert was Bon Jovi. So the number of times that I've just had to sit there and say, don't turn it into Chris Farley. That's all I'm hoping is that I don't Chris Farley, Richie Sambora. That's it.
Nice. All right. We'll transition from Richie Sambora, Chris Farley over to, I want to get your thoughts on what happened in the Sixers-Nets game last night. You guys had it on the radio and on the network last night, and no Kevin Durant. Now, you knew Harden was out, but does the NBA have an issue, or is this just an unfixable problem?
I think it's an unfixable problem. I mean, there's a little bit of an element of we've become so championship focused. That's all we care about. So what you end up with is even in big matchups, and last night was a big matchup, when you're missing superstars playing, you got to look at it and say, well, what do we put weight in? We devalued the regular season in every possible way so much because we won't give any accomplishment credit for what players do in the regular season. Russ can average a triple-double. We don't care. Giannis can be the MVP 2 years in a row. We don't care. It becomes only about what they've done in the championships. Well, if that's the culture we're going to create, then we, by default, as an NBA media, have devalued the regular season to the point that there's really no need to get guys on the court. I've been, and we've said it before on this show, I do not believe in Brooklyn until we see these guys get any time together. And I feel like I'm the only one because we just believe that this is a video game and they're all going to be fine. And that's how they're treating the regular season.
Right. I mean, so the message last night is this is for the number one seed against a team that is tied with you. We're playing you head to head. You take that game. We don't care. I mean, that's a little bit of a problem. I mean, yeah. What you're saying, though, is that the culture has become – do you think the fans, though – because, all right, for instance, here in Philly, and I think everywhere now, fans, a lot of them, have embraced losing, right? We embrace losing because we want draft picks. But have they embraced, I don't care about the regular season?
I think they have to a certain extent because it all comes in steps. You're right. At some point you embrace losing because you want draft picks. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you say, well, wait, now I want championships. There's this moment for me as a Raiders fan, right? When my team's 4-12, all I want to do is be relevant. Then my team gets relevant and they're 8-8. And I'm like, well, 8-8 stinks. Nobody wants that. And then you get to 11-5. And at some point you're going to say, well, I don't want this quarterback. He can't win a Super Bowl. We suddenly forget every step, every chapter in the evolution of success that comes for a franchise. But where we are in the NBA at this point, if the Sixers finish with the number one seed in the playoffs and they get ousted in the second round, is everybody going to be happy? No. If the Nets finish as a 4 seed but win the championship, that's all anybody cares about. Like we go through this marathon in the NBA of a regular season, and people just don't care what happens because unless you win the championship, nothing has value. And I think it's a flawed argument. It's no different than we look at Michael Jordan and say, well, he was undefeated in the finals without even acknowledging the fact that Michael Jordan had to at some point get through the Pistons to get to the finals. But then we turn around to LeBron and we say LeBron stinks because he's lost in the finals. Like it's all about just that one series. So if it's all about that one series, who cares about a game for the one seed?
It's crazy. I mean, and like I'm thinking to myself, man, they just literally say, you know what, you guys be the number one seed. I don't care. But we talk about all the time, like how much home court advantage matters and all this thing. And the Nets last night essentially said, hey, look, if we play in the Eastern Conference Finals, that's okay. You have home court advantage. We don't mind. That's all right. I don't know. I feel like you're right that we've gotten to this point that anybody could do anything, and I only care about it if they do it in the playoffs, which is, I guess, is fair. Like Tobias Harris, for instance, here. He's having a great regular season, but no one's buying in because I want to see him do it in the playoffs because he's never had playoff success. And I feel like if that's all we care about, we're really devaluing what sports was supposed to be and mean, like the journey, the ride, the start to finish. Sucks.
Well, I mean, what's the point? Like at some point, if you can't enjoy this sort of game, then what's the point? You're right about Tobias, by the way, and I don't understand again why we're doing that to Tobias, but we're not doing it to Harden, who flat out went out and just forgot, as Sarah Spain always says, he forgot how to basketball in a game 7, and it cost his team a series. But we forgive that for some reason because now we have this video game version of the Nets. But you're absolutely right. Like I genuinely ask people now, if you are a sports fan in this era, what's the point? Because to me, the point is to see my team win a bunch of games and feel like we have a real shot at doing something great. If you're not enjoying that entire process, then why? Like, why are you even going through it? It's like you're going to a great restaurant and you only care about dessert. The rest of the money's just wasted. The rest of the time's just wasted.
Yeah, Jay Fitz with me, ESPN Radio, Spain and Fitz, weeknights on 97.3 ESPN. All right, I say this. Only 5 teams can win the title. Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, Nets, Sixers. They have the only 5 players that could be the best player on the best team. That's it. Is there more? Am I missing any?
No, I think you're fair. I mean, a lot of people are going to say that you should put Denver or Utah in that conversation, and I just won't go there. When you get into a series, particularly, it's about is my best guy better than your best guy? And part of the reason that I love the Lakers so much out of the West still is that we all know that as much as it can be enticing to watch other things happen, if AD and LeBron are healthy, their best 2 is better than anybody else's best 2, and they played together enough to know how to manage that best 2. So I don't think you're wrong at all. It's the playoffs are about, can your team figure out when you know the other move? We've all felt this. If you've ever played any playground basketball in your life, you know that you can go out and have some success in one night against somebody that's never come to your playground before. When you're playing against the guy that you've known for the last 5 years, and he knows that every time you go left, you're actually going to turn back around and go right. Like, can you find a way to work through that? There are a lot of NBA teams that just can't. The best of the best that you just mentioned, you can't just study film on them and figure out in a 7-game series. So yeah, I believe in that, and I also still believe we're sleeping on Milwaukee just because of the past that they've had. Giannis is in many ways even better this year. They are better this year. I think Milwaukee's a team that we're sleeping on.
I included them, by the way.
Yeah,
I have them as my 5.
Yeah, noted.
But you saw Joel Embiid last night, and the Nets, who everybody feels is this super team and yada, yada, they have nobody that can stop him. Is that enough that they have Embiid and they have no one to stop them for the Sixers to be able to overtake the Nets? Now, the Bucks are different. The Bucks is a weird one because Giannis, we've seen his game not translate to the playoffs because he hasn't had the help. Does he have enough help now?
Yeah, I think Giannis has better help, but it's still a bad matchup with the Sixers, right? Like the Sixers just know how to get past Giannis. And so as much as, yes, the shooting, Drew Holiday's been just a delight for the Bucks, and I don't know that we're giving him enough love. But that being said, the Sixers feel like a bad matchup for Milwaukee, and the Sixers absolutely are capable of beating this Nets team. I don't know why we're sleeping on the way Philly has played throughout the entirety of the regular season and the domination that they can have. Like the trust the process thing became such a laughable quote at some point that now everybody just lumps Simmons and Embiid together in this, like, here you are and this is cute and it's fun, but it's not going to result in anything. I'm not willing to say that at all. And Tobias Harris, by the way, I think can succeed in the playoffs. So yes, they've got the two players that they will need to have enough stardom, and they've got the shooting from the outside to be able to go ahead and stretch people out. Yeah, I think the Sixers can get themselves in the finals. I just don't think anybody can beat the Lakers.
That should be fun. All right, I want to flip to the draft because not that I feel that it's incorrect, but is Trevor Lawrence the most home run prospect, or are we just assuming that he's going to be great? And because we don't even investigate him, we don't look at him, we don't even watch the tape. We just said he's the number one pick. It doesn't matter. But is it as home run as everybody is making it out to be?
Yeah, it is. And you know what? And I'll even double down. Like I saw the quotes with Sports Illustrated about like awards don't define him, Super Bowls don't define him. I don't care. He's so good. I mean, national championships, from what he said, probably didn't define him either. And he still went out there and played his tail off for Clemson over the course of this. And, I think one of the most impressive things to me a couple of years ago, standing in New Orleans on the sideline while he was trying to win a national championship, going through the playoff run in general, was listening to him and his command pre-snap. Now, I think absolutely the way that he attacks offenses pre-snap, his ability to read what's coming, adjust out of it, and get to the best play is an undervalued portion of what he does. Also, unlike some of the other prospects we're talking about, as good as Clemson's line is and as good as their defense is, their wide receivers haven't necessarily been the same game changers that Alabama's have, for example. He's a transcendent talent. If he doesn't win at the highest level, it's because Jacksonville screwed him up, but also Jacksonville's so bad because they know how to screw it up. So this is the same team that a few years ago we were sold that had figured out how to build an entire roster to such a level they were going to contend for years no matter their quarterback situation. And they created such a terrible culture. Everybody just screamed to get out of that city. So Jacksonville has to not screw up Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think Trevor Lawrence will screw up Jacksonville.
Okay, this is back to our conversation on the NBA that one of our viewers chimed in on. He says, what if less teams made the playoffs? Would that make it more competitive?
Yes, 1,000%. If less teams made the playoffs, I think we'd care more. Also, if the first couple of rounds were best of 5 instead of best of 7, more can go wrong in a best of 5 series. That would also make home court matter a lot more. I think that's a great. If I ran the NBA, my first step would be to let less teams in the playoffs and then to shorten that first round series to best of 5 like it was years ago.
Right, because I guess the notion of, like, if you – what do you let in, 6 teams and give the 2 teams a bye, or just let 4 teams in?
6 and 2 is good because now you've also given me an incentive to want one of those top 2 seeds. I mean, think about the NFL and how much we were talking about. Once you limited it to one team getting a bye, boy, it made the top of the rankings matter more in each conference, right? Like, that's where I look at it all day. If you give me a bye for the top 2 seeds, that's going to be significant for the playoff run. That'd be huge. And then let the rest of them sort of battle it out and limit down to 6. And forget this play-in tournament. I don't want teams that are barely interested in trying to get themselves to a 10 seed so that they can maybe get beat in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that's just garbage.
All right, there was a no-hitter in baseball last night. Does the no-hitter matter in baseball where everybody strikes out and it's acceptable?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that make the no-hitter less impactful to a lot of us. And number one is, as you mentioned, it's such a, swing or miss batting approach at this point. But number 2 is the number of pitchers that are involved in it so often. I mean, we've talked about how we're just going to see this year a litany of guys that are on the mound every single game. To me, it sort of devalues a little bit of it. Like, I love watching a pitcher that's at the end of his gas tank and saying, man, can he get just a little bit more out of this run? That to me is part of the excitement. So yeah, it's definitely a little devalued to me.
All right. I think, by the way, I like the rule. I hate the DH. I do not want the DH. But I like the rule that has the DH tied to the starting pitcher, and when the pitcher comes out, you lose the DH. I'm okay with that compromise.
I think that's a great – yeah, I'm all in with you on that. And I'm also all in with you that I'm not a DH fan. Like, it's never been a great thing to me, but I like at least at some level of meet in the middle.
Yeah, I think that would be because, the DH is going to be in the National League, I guess, at some point, which – would break my heart. I'm a baseball guy. I hate the DH. He's Jason Fitz, host of Spain and Fitz on 97.3 ESPN, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Follow him at Jason Fitz, and he'll be back here next week as we continue to get ready for that draft. Check out Jason's coverage of the draft 2 weeks from today, the NFL draft. All right, man, we'll see you then.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, Jay Fitz, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.